What are signs of depression that aren't talked about? Memory loss. I honestly can't remember half of my life. Edit. I didn't expect so many people to react. Not everyone has this and that's okay. We all struggle with our mental illnesses in different ways. As long as we seek help, get better, and educate others, that's all that matters. Yes, I don't feel like people talk about this nearly enough. I have huge gaps in my recollection, and a lot of other parts of my memory are muddled together. Edit. I didn't expect this to resonate with so many people. I don't have enough information to answer some of the questions going around, but for my own experience, my memory loss is pretty closely tied to depressive episodes. So for example, everything from 2008 to 10 and 2014 to 16 are a jumbled mess with whole events completely missing, as well as bits from my childhood. I do find it hard to create new memories, but I'm not unable to. They just aren't as vivid as the ones from 2007 for example. Agreed that both stress and age can impact memory, which can make it difficult to determine whether one factor is contributing more to the issue than another. I can't speculate on what's normal, but I think the reason I'm not completely convinced it's stress or age related for me is that the most significant gaps in my memory are closely aligned with depressive episodes. I do also think that depression can impact short-term memory. I saw a lot of comments about being unable to learn new things, and while I don't think that's necessarily my issue, I absolutely have problems remembering things I just learned in the days and weeks that follow. I have made it a habit to write down everything, no matter how insignificant it seems, and if it's work related, I write it down on paper and then I write it again in a searchable format. I use OneNote. It makes me move like molasses at work, but that's the only way I can ensure that I don't screw up something important. I read every one of your comments, and while it makes me sad that we're all struggling, I hope some of you walked away feeling comforted that you're not just dumb or absent-minded as you might have been led to believe. I hope you'll at least explore the possibility that there are other factors at play with a therapist. The 12 to 18 hours of sleep, and you still wake up feeling like crap. Try insomnia plus depression. I have so much fun these days. Edit. Rip my notifications. I'll raise you insomnia plus chronic fatigue plus depression / anxiety. It's a vicious cycle. That being said, my extra issues don't negate anybody else that has depression and / or anxiety. Mental health is no small task to handle, regardless of what other health concerns you do or don't have. Edit. Spelling. Also thinking of you all who have the same / similar to me. It's not fun, but we are not alone. Take care of yourselves. Anger. Before I was diagnosed with depression, any small significant thing set me off, but since it would mainly happen while I was working, I had to bite my tongue. I would be in a rotten mood all the time. So, if someone starts to be really angry all the time or really only complains about situations they absolutely can't change, here's looking at you retail, and you notice they haven't genuinely been happy in a long time. It could be depression. Intense irritability / anger was one of my symptoms too. In my case, it took a mood stabilizer to really get it under control. Close bracket. Did it help? I've got my first appointment with a mental health professional next week. My anger / irritability has become more than I can handle. A messy room / never doing chores, especially if you live on your own. Not caring about cleanliness is a clear sign that you just don't care how you even feel about things anymore. My house is dirty. It's not just messy, dirty, and as much as I try to convince myself to care, I don't. This one is so me. Laundry strewn over the floor, dust everywhere. Bathroom sink has turned yellow with lime scale. No space on the kitchen countertops because they are covered in dirty dishes. Shit gets bad. Being comfortable being so uncomfortable in life. Wanting to be happy and have a great life, but being comfortable in your misery and not having the energy or willingness or care to change it. Edit. Can't believe my highest voted comment is about how my head works. It's at 7 something thousands upvotes and a load of comments. If anything, it's good to not feel alone. I hope each and every one of you can get something from the comments, even if it is just that. You're not alone. You can't fall if you never leave rock bottom. We can dig. Rumination. This is a big one for me. It's where you replay all of the painful and embarrassing things you've ever done in your life over and over again. It's a terribly difficult thing to stop doing because you don't actually realize you're doing it most of the time. You just think you are having the same normal thoughts everyone else is having. I finally developed my own technique for stopping it, and it's worked pretty well for a couple of years now. How do you stop? I still relive memories from 20 plus years ago that I just can't get out of my head. It sucks. This symptom usually comes with diurnal variation. You'll get relief late at night, so sleep is easy. Then wake up at the crack of dawn, perhaps 2 hours earlier than usual. Back at square one, reliving all your greatest hits of fuck-ups. Inability to make a simple decision. Some nights I struggle for hours trying to figure out what to eat for dinner. For real though, why is it so hard to decide what to eat when I only eat the same handful of foods? Because you don't really want to eat, but your body is telling you that you have to. Inability to focus. Imagine having to do homework, but other members of your family are having a conversation. All attention goes to the conversation. Then you realize that you're listening to the conversation and not doing homework, so you spend time mentally beating yourself up because you can't even focus for one freaking minute exclamation mark. I can't believe how far I have to scroll to find this, but I guess it goes to show just how little this symptom is associated with depression. When I'm having a depressive episode, not only does my memory lapse, but I also get extremely unfocused, almost like confused, which can make me a very irritable and short-tempered. It can be tiring and make even the simplest tasks so difficult. I can't ducking learn anything new. My brain rejects it. I'm so out of it and lost that I just sit there, staring at the board, not even taking notes, just wondering and trying to figure out what the hell is wrong with me. How come I don't understand this topic and everyone else does? Was I paying attention? Probably not, but I don't remember. General apathy, not deep dark soul crushing pain or sadness, just feeling nothingness towards everything. You lose interest in your hobbies. Things don't make you happy or sad. You just sort of exist and go through the motions. Addition, the fact that this is so widespread is disheartening. You guys. On the other hand, for what it's worth, whatever you're going through, you're not alone. I went through a long period of this personally and came through the other side, and so can you. Please give yourself extra grace right now with this covered wildness going on around the globe. Maybe you are in a mode of self-preservation just to get through, or maybe not. I hope you are able to speak with a licensed professional, or at least a trusted friend. Stay safe. At first you're kind of wistful that you can't seem to connect with other people anymore, and then you realize you can't even really connect with yourself anymore, and that should be soul crushing, but it's just more meh. You get excited when you make plans, but end up looking to get out of them. Not having any emotions or convictions at all. Being bored. People associate depression with profound sadness, but especially if it's chronic. That's only a small part of depression. You get to the point where you can't feel anything at all. You don't get happy or sad, frightened or excited. You exist without feeling. Imagine living your life not being able to pay attention to anything because it's so boring. Your hobbies, friends, job, your life. Imagine being perpetually bored and only bored. Being unable to feel anything but that and occasional crushing misery. I think that's what people don't get about depression. That it gets so bad that being really sad is actually almost a relief. You put into words exactly what I've been feeling. Perpetual boredom. Ugh. It's so awful. I have had this for 25 years. I'm genuinely amazed I'm still alive. The no energy, no motivation, no care. It's not laziness. It's just there's nothing in you to do anything. So much agreement here. I get told constantly that it's easy to do the things I'm supposed to. It's not. It's really not. Most of the time, I don't have it in me to take care of myself in lots of ways that I should. And in fact, being criticized over my lack of attention to self-care just makes me want to go back to sleep, or to cry, or even results in me feeling less motivated than I did before I was being complained at. I know that I'm bad at taking care of myself, and when I respond with this, All anyone replies with is, well, why don't you take care of yourself then if you know? It's not that easy. Although it can be very hard to understand that if you don't deal with mental illness. For me, it was a combination of depression, anxiety, and ADHD. Depression and anxiety go hand in hand. The depression is fairly self-explanatory. Anxiety comes in many forms, but can be categorized as acute and chronic. Acute anxiety is like a panic attack. Also lesser forms, but it ramps up noticeably in a short-ish time frame, minutes to hours, then falls back down pretty fast. 2. Chronic anxiety is something you might not notice you have right away. I noticed mine because the acute events seemed to be hitting the point where I couldn't function much faster. I eventually realized I was starting from a much higher baseline. I asked my doctor if anxiety could also be chronic, and she laughed and was like, yes, absolutely. ADHD is a lot of things, but not being able to start on the tasks I know I need to start on is a huge part of it. Just go do it. It's easy. It's not easy for me. That is the most consequential way my ADHD presents. Then they all feed into each other in a compounding loop. ADHD means I can't get started on a task. That increases my anxiety, which makes it harder to focus, which ramps up my ADHD even more. ADHD means I can hyperfocus on anything that isn't related to the task at hand. But I start to realize I'm doing it again, and then my depression starts up. Now I'm anxious, depressed, and can't focus, which means it is harder to focus, which means I'm more anxious, etc. ad infinitum. If this seems familiar to you, and you don't have a diagnosis for any of these things, you should think about trying to get a referral to a psychiatrist. The inability to complete tasks or meet deadlines, no matter how important they are, or how much it's a task you normally enjoy doing. It's strange and I don't know if people talk about it as much, but at least for me it's not necessarily laying around in bed all day. It's more like just not paying my bills on time, even though I have the money, because I don't want to turn on my laptop, or get up, and find my login info to pay something. I know I'll get late fees, and fall behind, and I literally have the money and still just don't do it. Or, starting a task and essentially sitting staring at it for hours, until you eventually abandon it totally, even though you wanted to do it, and really didn't require anything of you. When I feel like this, it will take me 3 days to finish a piece of jewelry that would normally take an hour, or not packing up my Etsy orders for a week, even though it takes literal minutes. It's like a hugely weird blend of inability to focus and total apathy and disregard of consequences. Edit. Thank you for the awards, fellow redditors. I'm both very glad I was able to describe this feeling for us all, and yet very sorry so many of you can relate. Don't give up. I pay, or don't pay. Rather, my bills are very same way, and have for years, which has cost me an amount of money that I don't really want to think about adding up. Thank you for at least confirming I'm not the only one doing something I absolutely understand is dumb, but doing it anyways. Best of luck to you, fam. Nope, definitely not you. Basically, the second something is required of me, no matter how small or insignificant, when I'm in this slump, my brain's like, nah. It's like a direct correlation between need to do this thing and oh, this needs to be done, should be done, don't care, we aren't doing it. Sorry you go through this too. As someone who is generally meticulous and on top of everything, it's infuriating to live with. I'm bipolar, but in my depressive states I wake up in the morning and my first thought is I just want the day to be over so I can go to bed again. Yes, on weekends I sleep as late as possible, and when I get up the day basically consists of counting the hours and minutes to when I can go back to bed at night. The fact that it is a genuine challenge most days to brush your teeth, shower, brush your hair, etc. Because you wonder what's the point anymore, since your life isn't worth living anyways. Yeah. Thing is, I'm able to do things that entertain me, like using my phone for social media, or gaming, so nobody takes me seriously when I can't do simple hygiene stuff, because I spend my whole life on my phone. I do the exact same, and I think it's because those things are a distraction from how I'm feeling. As soon as I have to stop distracting myself and actually do things, I also have to acknowledge the aspects of my life I was avoiding. It's also a weird mental block, where my brain has decided that certain things require much more effort than they actually do. I've described it as my brain deciding that every small task you would do during the day is as exhausting as climbing 10 flights of stairs. I've been doing a little better lately by using a habit building app and setting myself a goal with a reward at the end. Memory loss. I can't remember even what day it is when it hits. I mix up events and can sometimes have trouble remembering words. The cognitive function really gets bad. I relate. Every year, I forget more and more words. There was a point where I started writing the words I'd forget on my arm, but then I realized my arm would get too cluttered with all the words I had forgotten. It's frustrating and confusing. Overgenerosity. Being generous is good, but if someone is needlessly sacrificing time, money, effort, etc. towards something they don't need to, then that can be very similar to a suicidal person giving away their posses. Science. This is a very good one. I think one of the best in the thread is it's one of the least obvious. People going so above and beyond just to try to make themselves feel something, anything. It's like a form of overextension by people who don't know how to express their needs in any other way. I do believe these things can be picked up on by people who are empathetic and observant enough. There are characteristics and qualities to these acts, but I think most often people are simply too worried about themselves, or even sometimes see someone suffering, but they don't want to make their own lives potentially harder or more complicated by getting involved. Absolute self-hatred and the belief that you are a burden to anyone around you. I think this should be discussed more. Depression isn't just extreme sadness or a disliking of yourself. It can get to the point where you actually hate yourself. You just build up so much anger and then let it loose on yourself. It's scary. I find some new way I'm a deficient man or human at least every few days at this point. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe for more videos.